You're nearly tied with Pete Buttigieg, AOC, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. You have a higher favorability than John Fetterman and Vice President Harris. What do you make of this?
I make of it that citizens, particularly on the left, are desperate. And I mean it when I say it. I think I can beat them all. And I have no desire whatsoever to run for office. I am not a politician. I am not qualified. But I know this much. When you consider who's on the other side and how he's gotten away with saying very little in terms of being coherent and articulating his thoughts clearly and concisely and what have you. This is not something that he's known to do. Yet and still, he has owned the Republican Party since 2015. Not only has he won, the Republican constituency has said, we don't want anybody else but him. We didn't want DeSantis. We didn't want Haley. We didn't want Christie. We didn't want Ramaswamy. We didn't want DeSantis. We didn't want anybody. We want him.
What does that say about the Republican Party?
It's not about what it says about the Republican Party. It's about what it says about the Democratic Party.
Right from the start, you can see Jonathan Karl, ABC's veteran political correspondent, struggling to maintain his professional demeanor. There's that slight smirk, the controlled facial expressions as Stephen A. Smith, yes, the ESPN sports commentator, discusses polling numbers showing him tied with prominent Democratic figures like Pete Buttigieg and AOC. Karl's subtle reactions speak volumes as Smith boldly claims, "I think I can beat them all," while simultaneously admitting he has no desire whatsoever to run for office and that he is not qualified.
I have a question about LGBTQ rights because, as you know, we get attacked like every time a fascist government comes in. They say they're protecting kids, but it's not about the kids. We can't even live our truth because me going out every single day as who I am puts me in danger. So my question, Senator, to you is, what are we going to do about protecting LGBTQ rights and trans rights for those who don't have a voice that can speak up? This is not a costume, this is who I am, and I am not about to let him tell me who I am.
Thank you for coming. So first of all, can I have a hug? Yes. Thank you. So this is what really bothers me about bullies. They often will first target the people they believe and perceive are the weakest. And from Stonewall to Harvey Milk to some of the activists that lead Garden State Pride right now, they make a mistake when it comes to the New Jersey LGBTQ community if they think we're weak. And I will tell you this. I will stand with you. If they come after trans Americans or LGBTQ Americans, they're going to have to come through this United States Senator. Because you deserve the same rights that I enjoy, the same protections, the same respect, and the same love. If I don't make a stand with you, the next they'll be coming after the next community they perceive as vulnerable. We must stand together when it comes to fundamental rights and respect and the dignity of all people.
The visual contrast is striking. Karl, the seasoned political journalist, sitting across from Smith, the bombastic sports personality known for his hot takes on basketball and football. It's clear Karl is processing this surreal conversation in real time, a sports commentator seriously discussing a potential presidential run while critiquing both parties' platforms.
ESPN's First Take. He's one of the most, maybe the most listened to sports commentator in America. Lately, he's been talking a lot about politics. And this week, he opened the door to a possible run for president in 2028. So joining me now, Stephen A. Smith. Thank you very much for being here. We'll get to your possible political future in a second. But you said when Trump got elected, we should give him a chance. How's it going? I mean, what's your take on where Trump is now at day 80 plus?
Well, I don't like what I'm seeing, but I'm not surprised. I mean, this whole Tariff War situation is utterly ridiculous. I mean, my attitude is that he should have immediately targeted China and not every nation on the planet, for crying out loud, just throwing tariffs at everybody. Ultimately, he dialed that back, as we saw over the last few days, and folks on the right are up in arms. Basically, I should say, I mean, positively, essentially saying that that was the plan all along. There doesn't appear to be a plan. Let's be very, very clear about that. It seems to be a bit very haphazard and, you know, just thrown against the wall to see what will stick. But in the end, you know, what you to applaud him for is for trying something. You know, we're spending about $2 trillion more, you know, than we're raking in. We're losing our credit rating. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the United States of America financially, economically, that has been, you know, tinkering towards disaster, and somebody had to do something. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, I can understand the need for tariffs, as Senator Elizabeth Warren had articulated. But in the end, what it comes down to is that it does seem to be a bit haphazard right now. And it seemed geared towards large businesses, when we all know small businesses is what makes this country thrive. And I don't see him targeting that nearly enough, but we shall see.
I mean, this is one thing he's been consistent on forever. He's been saying America gets ripped off in trade. He's been an advocate of tariffs, even before he was an advocate of, you know, stopping immigration. What about this idea that we can bring back American manufacturing to, you know, through tariffs? I mean, is that realistic? Is it plausible?
Well, listen, there are better minds than me that can answer that question. I can't see that happening. I think they've said that we've lost over 5 million manufacturing jobs over the last 20 plus years or so. I don't know if that's coming back, particularly with the age of AI, ChatGPT, and other things coming into the forefront. I just can't see that happening. But again, if that's the song that you want to sing to the American public, to the constituency out there that you think is going to vote for you, he seems very convincing in letting people know what he feels and getting them to see his way of thinking. But I think it's a byproduct rather, of the Democratic Party, and the fact that they don't seem to have any mission, any vision, any kind of leadership. They seem rudderless, to say the least. And now it's at a point where they're getting mocked religiously. And so as a result of that, you're going to look at him, and regardless of the troubles that you think he might bring forth, unless things become disastrous economically, the fact of the matter is the American people have already said during the last election, he's a bit more normal or closer to normal than the Democratic Party. And that's where the real problem lies. It's not
Smith's strategy becomes evident as the interview progresses. He positions himself as an outsider, disgusted with both parties. A page straight from the Trump playbook, but with a different flavor. What's fascinating is how Smith critiques the Democratic Party while still identifying with liberal values. He repeatedly hammers the Democrats for lacking vision and leadership, describing them as ruleless and getting mocked religiously.
So Elizabeth Warren talked about getting Congress to stop him. I mean, that's not really going to go anywhere. You got the House is controlled by the Republicans. So is the Senate. He's not going to sign anything into law. And then we had Gretchen Whitmer, who's talked about as a possible candidate for president. She's tried to engage Trump. She was in the Oval Office. I'm sure you saw this. I mean, maybe we can bring up the picture. At one point, she seemed like she was trying to hide behind her own binder as Trump was praising her. What did you make of Whitmer trying to engage Trump?
Well, listen, she's the governor of Michigan. She has no choice but to do that. And anybody that thinks otherwise is just being foolish and immature and childish. The fact is that she's the governor of a state in the United States of America. You need to do business with the federal government. He's the president of the United States. You don't get to circumvent him. So as a result, you have to be an adult in the room and be prepared to do business. And anybody that would encourage her to do otherwise is just being utterly ridiculous. I was watching Bill Maher in real time. I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask you, though. She was there while he was signing these executive orders, basically asking his Justice Department to investigate, people that had criticized him. Should she have used that opportunity? She's there to actually speak up on that?
Probably so. I mean, again, but the real issue is that whatever it takes to get business done is what we need to be focused on. Whatever her business is with that particular issue or her particular state, I understand that. The bigger picture here is that Elizabeth Warren was just on with you. You're going to have a multitude of Democratic representatives on with you. They talk and they talk and they talk, but what can they do? They position themselves to do absolutely nothing. I didn't hear anything about tariffs from the Democrats before the election. Trump had been preaching about this for the longest time. The way people decry his strategy, he's been bloviating about that. They said nothing about it. Instead, they talked about everything from woke culture to cancer culture to abortion rights and all of this other stuff. But that wasn't going to win the election. And that's what we have to look at. What is it going to take to get the job done? That's why somebody who's a sports analyst, for crying out loud, is in the daggone polls. It's not somebody big up in me. It's an indictment against a Democratic Party that doesn't have leadership and doesn't have a vision.
Perhaps most revealing is Smith's admission that billionaires and others have talked to him about exploratory committees. He frames his potential candidacy as a reluctant duty, claiming his pastor told him you don't know what God has planned for you, and that he should leave the door open for any possibilities 2 to 3 years down the line. It's hard not to interpret Carl's restrained expressions during these moments. The veteran anchor maintains professionalism, but his subtle reactions betray his thoughts about the plausibility of a Smith candidacy.
Bill Maher, I saw Steve Bannon was on with Bill Maher, and he was asked what Democrats he worries about. And you know the only name he mentioned as a Democrat he'd be worried about. So are you really thinking about running for president? Is this something you think?
Listen, I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me. I've had folks who are pundits come up to me. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others, that have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. I just signed a contract extension with ESPN. I am very, very
pretty
happy
good one, too.
With my day job. I'm very happy with my boss. This is a pretty damn good one. Just right. It's a pretty damn good contract. I couldn't be happier. But here's the reality. People have walked up to me, including my own pastor, for crying out loud, who has said to me, you don't know what God has planned for you. At least show the respect to the people who believe in you, who respect you, who believe that you can make a difference in this country, to leave the door open for any possibilities 2 to 3 years down the line. And that's what I've decided to do. But again, whether it's Westmore, Governor Westmore, who I know, or Governor Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, who I know, Andrew Cuomo, who I had the pleasure of interviewing, who's trying to get back in things to be the next mayor of New York, etc. I see a lot of people that obviously and clearly are more qualified than me. But in the same breath, when you think about what Trump is getting away with, when you think about what you brought up about Steve Bannon, who's trying to be slick because he's looking at a non-political individual like myself, looking at me as a populist. But you better be careful what you ask for, because some of the stuff that Trump and the right has been trying to get away with, like circumventing the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, talking about how there could be a third term. Excuse me, be careful what you wish for, because if any GOP member, if any Republican supports that, I don't want to hear a word out of their mouth ever again about the following the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. That's what they've been living off for years. And then you're talking about circumventing the 22nd Amendment, and you think that's cool? No way. That's not something that we should stand for. So I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest.
Whether Stephen A. Smith ever formally enters politics remains to be seen. What's clear is that the blurring lines between entertainment and politics continue to evolve in American culture. Smith's consideration of a presidential run, however serious or speculative, reflects a political landscape where celebrity and name recognition increasingly serve as qualification for high office. For now, Smith continues his highly successful career at ESPN, recently signing a contract extension, but he's carefully leaving that door open for 2028, telling us that while he hopes somebody else would step up that's more qualified, he wouldn't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all. One thing's certain, Jonathan Karl deserves credit for maintaining his composure during what must have been one of the more unusual political interviews of his career.